So what is culture? It's the way we do things around here. It's the way our businesses run. And like a lot of things, like the way Supreme Court defined pornography, you know, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. A lot of what we know about culture, we understand it. And because many of us were in public accounting, we understand this idea of culture. Because we could walk into a client, and within 10 or 15 minutes, we would know whether this was going to be a clean audit, or whether it's going to be a difficult audit. We were going to know if we were going to get cooperation, we weren't going to get cooperation. And we picked this up from a lot of clues, a lot of verbal clues along the way. So I can tell a lot about a business, and so can you, without really ever knowing, ever doing anything, but ever showing up. If I walk into a parking lot of a business, and the first spot next to the door says reserved for the CEO, and then for the CFO, and then for the Executive VP of Sales, what does that tell me? It tells me that company is very, very autocratic, that leadership is valued in that company. So we know a lot about the company, so I've seen it. If I see in the first spot next to the door is reserved for Employee of the Month, that tells me basically that that's a company that values their employees, at least ostensibly. They're making an effort. If I see, and I think this is probably the best, if I see that the first spot next to the door is reserved for customers and guests, that means the customer is #1 in that company, and they're doing it for the customer. If I see that the spot is for hybrids, it's interesting. It's kind of quirky culture. Kind of be an interesting company. But whether we do it for CEOs, that means that it's a top-down. Employees, you value employees, or customers. We've learned a lot about the company just by getting in the parking lot. Then as we walk up to the front door, and we see that the sidewalk is kind of broken, and that there's no grass, and there's very little, if any, landscaping, and it's dying, we get an idea that this is a company that either is in trouble financially or doesn't really care about those kinds of things. As opposed to walking up and you see an immaculate landscaping and beautiful flowers and all that kind of stuff. This is a company that cares about details. And you walk into the front door and you go to the receptionist, and you know, you don't know why, but suddenly you speak in hushed tones, as if you were talking like a golf announcer. You know, he's got the putt on the 15th hole. It's that kind of hushed tones because everything is so quiet. Or you walk in and it's like Grand Central Station, 5 o'clock, people rushing back and forth and shouting. Again, you get a feel for the company. You walk up and you say, you know, I'm here to see so-and-so, and then you look at the magazines, and you have 15-year-old copies of Us or Entertainment Weekly. Tells you one thing. You have current scientific and technical journals for people to read, or you have the latest copies of the Wall Street Journal, Fortune, and Forbes. Again, it tells you very much about the focus of the business. The CEO comes out to see you, right? And he turns to the receptionist and says, you know, why didn't you tell me he was waiting? It's an important person, and lays into them. I mean, that tells you something about the culture. Or you're walking back to the office and nobody's making eye contact with the CEO. They're all averting their eyes because they don't want to be singled out. Or conversely, the CEO stops at somebody's desk and says, oh, you know, Diane, how's your grandmother? I hope she's doing better. And he's able to say hello and talk to each of the people, and the people seem generally happy to talk to the CEO. That's a different culture. One of the things you note as you're walking back is what people's desks like. If their desk is immaculate and all you have is on that one single sheet of paper, well, that may tell you the person's not very busy, but it also tells you that there's nothing in that cubicle that ties them personally to the business. And when people separate the business from their personal life, it gives them license to do something different in personal life than it does in their professional life. So to me, I love to see those cubicles with a lot of tchotchkes, a lot of novelties. I love to see pictures of grandchildren and children on the walls and drawings, because you can't lie to somebody looking at your grandchild. So the more that people's, you know, a lot of people say, I don't like clutter. I love that clutter because it tells me that the people's bringing their personal life into their professional life. And really the ultimate is if they have tchotchkes with the company's name, they have a company mug, and if you have a picture of a grandchild in a picture frame with the company's name on it, now you know you really have integration. So again, we can learn a lot about a culture of an organization simply by observing what's going on. And we really